Welcome to the Court of History. I'm Sidney Blumenthal. I'm here with my co-host, Sean Wilentz of Princeton University. Sean, the court is now in session. Donald Trump has threatened $1 billion suit against the BBC because it edited his speech on January 6th and conflated two things. They did not create an inaccurate perception of his motive and incitement, but nonetheless, that was factually inaccurate to do that. Now, BBC, one of the most respected foreign news media organizations, holds its annual lecture series of distinguished people. It's called the Wreath Lectures.
The Wreath Lectures, sure.
Yeah, very well known. The lecturer was this year is a historian, Rutger Bregman. He's a Dutch historian. And he said that in his Wreath Lecture, the BBC removed a key line from the address when it was broadcast. And the line was that Donald Trump was, quote, the most openly corrupt president in American history. And he's objected to that. So now we have censorship abroad as a result of Trump's intimidation about the issue of corruption. First of all, I'd like to ask you on our non-censored court of history, your view of this Dutch historian Rutger Bregman's assertion that Donald Trump is the most openly corrupt president in American history.
Oh, there's no question it's true. There's no question it's true. I mean, there may be hidden icebergs of corruption among other presidencies that we don't know about, but the most openly corrupt, absolutely. It's flagrant, absolutely flagrant between the jet from Qatar. I mean, it's all over the place, especially recently with all of this Bitcoin stuff. Somebody was raising the question of whether when he builds his new ballroom, when he's torn down the East Wing and he's built this new ballroom, whether there will be Bitcoin slot machines for people to be operating, as opposed to the old Taj Mahal. But there's no question about that. Why the BBC would have censored something that is just factually accurate? I don't know anyone who would say otherwise, except for maybe a rabid supporter of Donald Trump's. Indeed, I suppose even they might even go along with it because it's been so brazen. But no, I just find that's very distressing to hear. I had not heard about that.
Yeah, so it's a really interesting question about Trump's corruption that is going to be with us forever in history, but also immediately with us, and is going to be with us whenever there's a proper legal and historical assessment in the short, medium, and long term. Fortunately, we have with us somebody who knows a great deal about this, and that is Jonathan Weiner. He was the U.S. Special Envoy for Libya, the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for International Law Enforcement, dealing with international corruption. He knows a good deal about this. He was the counsel in the U.S. Senate to Senator John Kerry investigating corruption and scandal, including the Iran-Contra scandal. He's written extensively and lectured widely on U.S. Middle Eastern policy, counterterrorism, international money laundering, illicit networks, corruption, and U.S.-Russia issues. Welcome to the Court of History, Jonathan. So, Jonathan, there is a brand new report that has just been issued by the House Judiciary Committee Democrats called Trump, Crypto, and a New Age of Corruption. It's a staff report that details Trump's use of crypto for his own self-interest and corruption. It notes that his fortune has expanded monumentally, according to the report, largely because of his crypto dealings. He's transformed his own business from the Trump organization into a crypto group. And no one knows how much money he's made. Rutgers estimates in the first 6 months $800 million. The New Yorker said $3.4 billion. Some estimate, according to this report, 11.6 billion. No one knows what kind of wealth, and the public is fairly ill-informed about it. 60% of Americans, according to one poll, said they hadn't heard about the president's family running a cryptocurrency business. And yet, this is a deep form of corruption. How can President Trump be corrupted through his crypto business?
Well, let's start with the definition of corruption, which I used to use when I lectured for about a decade at the Kent School for Intelligence, training U.S. intelligence officers. It's the use of public authority or public office for personal or private gain. That's the definition. And corruption has been viewed in societies going back for millennia as a form of criminal activity that's extraordinarily dangerous to societies. Find it references to in the Quran, the Old Testament, the New Testament. Do not do corruption; it staineth the soul. That kind of thing. So, the use of public office for private gain. Here, private gain is quite clear when somebody puts money into a Trump-sponsored or Trump family-sponsored coin or token. They're investing in businesses that are part of and owned by and profiting with profit going to members of the president's family, regardless of his own current situation relationship to that company. So it's pretty straightforward. And there are two features of cryptocurrency that make it particularly effective and which are inherent in it and very problematic. And the first is their number of bank accounts. How do you know that you've got crypto? It's got a number. And the second element of it is they're like bearer shares. Bearer share means that you go to a bank and you've got a piece of paper and you have that piece of paper and you know what the number of the account is. You take the piece of paper and the number and it's yours. You didn't have to have it owned before. You didn't have to have any connected to it. You just had to know that I've got the token and I've got the number. So crypto's got both of those elements. While it can be, under circumstances, traced, ultimately, the ownership is through IP addresses on blockchains. Basically, crypto is very, very hard to penetrate, which is why GRU agents for Russia interfere.
Those are Russian intelligence agents.
Russian intelligence agency people out of St. Petersburg were found by Robert Mueller to have interfered in the United States elections in 2016 by using cryptocurrency to make payments to their operatives in the United States. That's a formal finding by a special counsel, Robert Mueller, in looking at the allegations of election interference in 2016, which he found did take place, and it was done in part by crypto. So what you have here is the opportunity for people who are not Americans, as well as people who are Americans, to curry favor with the Trump administration and with the president by buying large amounts of the president's cryptocurrency and crypto tokens, very possibly no scrutiny, where anyone is to see into. And this is particularly amplified, and the Senate report discusses this, by the fact that at the same time, the regulatory enforcement protections that were put in place in the Biden years to deal with the phenomenon of crypto-related crime have been taken down. Enforcement actions have been stopped. People convicted of massive crypto-related crimes have been pardoned. Regulations have been withdrawn. So the enforcement activity and regulatory activity governing and covering this entire sector has been relaxed in order to give it more room to operate. And that more room to operate includes operating where your mouth is, and that will go directly to entities created by the Trump family and their
So the Department of Justice and the Securities Exchange Commission have both been undermined, according to this report by the Democrats and House Judiciary Committee, as well as other federal agencies responsible for tracking bad actors in the cryptocurrency industry.
I wouldn't say they've been undermined. I don't think that's the right word.
What would you'd use a stronger word?
The policy has been changed, so they're not enforcing laws and regulations they were enforcing before against this sector. The sector has been given essentially a free pass, and the problem is it's extraordinarily susceptible to abuse. It contains exactly those features which are the biggest problems originally in generating financial crime. Essentially, anonymous accounts which you can unlock if you know the key. All you need is the anonymous account and the key. And that is absolutely ripe for every kind of abuse, including the kind of abuse where people literally get threatened with being killed, tortured, and killed if they don't give up the key. And that's happening all the time right now. It's a massive crime wave. But it's a terrific way for foreign intelligence agencies to hide what they're doing, for foreigners who want to contribute to American politics to avoid federal election law, which makes it illegal for them to do that. And everything that you could not do, that was prohibited, you were prohibited from doing as a non-American to affect American politics. If you're looking for Trump's blessing, you can do that now through buying those crypto tokens and coins. You can do it if you're, I'm going to make this up, an agent of the Egyptian government, or the Turkish government, or the Chinese government, or the Russian government. And we know these governments in various ways, as has Iran, in our elections in the past, in our political.
Yeah. So Trump has created some instruments, Jonathan.
It's a whole new great way to go about that.
Yeah. Right. So Trump has created some companies now. He has World Liberty Financial, which is run by his sons, Don Jr. and Eric Trump. And their partner is someone named Zach Witkoff, who is the son of Steve Witkoff, who is Trump's all-purpose special envoy, who has recently been acting as an advisor to Putin in how to deal with Ukraine, exposed recently in a leaked transcript as a central negotiator in that. But they've been running World Financial Liberty. We don't know what Trump is getting on the back end of that. And we don't know exactly what foreign actors and their interests are investing through World Liberty Financial.
I hope and want to believe that there are no Russians whatsoever who are putting their money into this company. I hope and want to believe that there are no Chinese doing it. I hope and want to believe there are no Iranians doing it. I hope and want to believe that there are no one from the Middle East doing it. But news reports have suggested the opposite, and have suggested that it may well be that foreign persons are putting billions of dollars into these tokens and have nothing in back of them other than the fact that they exist.
So President Donald Trump declared, according to this report by the Democrats on the House Judiciary Committee, that he declared a personal income of $57.3 million from World Liberty Financial in his 2024 financial disclosure reports.
It's available online. Anyone can look for it, determine whether that fact is true. I assume it's true. But that's going to be
reported here by them. And no one knows what their holdings are now and whether or not any portion of that could possibly be held in escrow for him or in reserve.
There's a tremendous amount we don't know about all of this. and it has huge potential for abuse.
So let me ask you, here's another question and another form of corrupt abuse, and that involves the pardon power of the president. We have a case where we know what happened. He pardoned Changeng CZ Zhao, who in 2023 pleaded guilty to money laundering and agreed to step down as CEO of a crypto firm called Binance. And they made a settlement of $4.3 billion with DOJ as a result of their wrongdoing. And then the Zhao and Binance spent months boosting World Liberty Financial, and with hundreds of millions of dollars in the last year. And Trump granted him a pardon. This seems pretty direct.
You can certainly imagine that there were quids and quos in that events. But of course, we were not party to the communications that gave rise to those public facts.
And the pardon power is something that can't be questioned, can it?
No.
Like legislative immunity, presidential immunity. Presidential immunity was conferred by the Roberts Court. Congressional immunity and pardon immunity are conferred by the Constitution.
Right, correct. I just have a little question, though, about, I mean, it's sometimes difficult to distinguish between the foreign governments you're talking about, Jonathan, and organized crime of various kinds. I mean, they blur, to say the least, they blur into each other. But if I were just simply looking at it from the standpoint of not so much about foreign influence, but even of domestic influence, the fact that this is an anonymous form of contribution, in effect, a gigantic money laundering machine that Trump is in charge of, right? This sounds to me as if, when you put in the international factor, that what he's really doing is setting up a worldwide, a global crime syndicate run out of the Oval Office.
One could frame this scenario as being like out of a James Bond movie, in which you have a group of wealthy potentates, some of whom are heads of governments, some of whom are heads of criminal organizations, like cryptocurrency companies that violate laws of multiple countries, like the founder of Silk Road, who was alleged to have prepared to have contract killings on his enemies before he was convicted and then pardoned by Mr. Trump. So it's almost like something out of a James Bond movie, but we don't know what's underneath the tip of the iceberg that we can see. It very much is a situation where what we can see is horrific, but there's much that we cannot see. And I want to be clear on one point. There is an impression here that all of this is being run by the president, Mr. Trump, but we don't know what he runs and doesn't run. We don't know what he directs and doesn't direct. We don't know the degree to which his sons are doing this on their own, the degree to which he's a part of it. That's part of the problem when you mix being in government and being in business. Again, what's the definition of corruption? It's the use of public office or public authority for private gain. And all of this is completely blurred at the current moment, which makes it very hard to assess just how bad it is. It's bad. But just how bad, you would have to be able to parse through what's happening with a much finer grain than we can from the outside.
Jonathan, you're an expert in money laundering. You tracked it through the State Department. You tracked it when you worked at the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and elsewhere. You've advised our intelligence agencies on this. How would this filter into our electoral system and corrupt it?
Well, first, if you've got foreign governments putting money into any entity related to the president, that money can in turn be used in various ways to buy additional things in the United States. It's prohibited under our election laws. It's criminal activity for foreign money to enter into elections, which doesn't mean that people don't try and do it from time to time. But if you look at what's happened in the past, you would have foreign governments contract with someone, and I'm intentionally not naming names here because some of the people I'm thinking about have been pardoned by President Trump, and they get large contracts from foreign governments for things they're not particularly experts in, and then they become major fundraisers for the Republican Party and put large amounts of money into federal elections, both hard money, which is visible, and money which is not visible as a result of Citizens United, super PACs, and all that kind of thing. So you can have an awful lot of foreign money slosh into the United States once you have eliminated transparency and replaced it as opaque as cryptocurrency.
And there's no way to trace it.
There is. It takes a lot of work. There are a few companies who help the FBI in investigations by looking at IP addresses, essentially, where a transaction took place involving a blockchain asset. So there's certain characteristics of the moment and the location which you can look at and begin to.
But they'd have to be directed to do that.
They have to have a client who's willing to pay for it. It's expensive and it's time consuming. And you can't always do it. If there are enough actors moving the money around, circling it around through enough different vehicles, you can make it take a very long time, because you can essentially create paper losses and paper profits almost anywhere through essentially manipulated transactions, non-market transactions in which people appear to be independent third parties, independent opposite parties, but in fact they're in collusion. So collusive trading is another thing that cryptocurrency can facilitate, in which there really is no counterparty, but there are a small number of people pretending to be a larger number of people, and thereby moving their money around to eliminate profits so they don't have to pay taxes and create losses, for example, or to make payments to people in ways that you can't see. When I was doing anti-money laundering work, I once went to a bank where I got to see, 10, 20, 30, 40, $50 billion worth of money laundering in a single morning or afternoon as I went through the bank's internal records. And what was really going on was fake transactions characterized as buying and selling electronics and computer equipment and things of that nature. But it was really about obscuring the actual ownership of the actual money. And you can make money go up and money go down through these mechanisms. You can do fake loans, you can create fake profits, you can do all kinds of things. Really, it's your ability to manipulate things if you're in this game is unlimited except by the human imagination once you've got the tools. And crypto is a tool which, if you're involved in with a few confederates, you can do almost anything with. And here's the last point, and this gets even beyond our elections, into the foundations. We've got rule of law as one foundation, and an economy with many, many, many actors operating as a market with lots of independent decisions is another foundation of what the United States has been for better or worse. And the problem of this kind of collusive trading with instruments is you can use it to amass a tremendous amount of money built on no capital whatsoever, with nothing underneath it.
Yes.
When the tide goes out, as the old saying goes, you know who's not wearing a bathing suit. And here, when the tide goes out, we could have huge explosion from round-robin circles of people acting together in concert to artificially inflate what they actually have, as if it had real value. And the moment when the tide goes out, that can crater, and that can collapse an awful lot of things. We went through that with derivatives in 2008, 2009. This one could make that one look like nursery school stuff. We could be getting a postgraduate education and the consequences of global financial crime if this goes the wrong way. So it's incredibly dangerous.
Well, on that Hollywood ending, I want to thank Jonathan for appearing on the Court of History. On behalf of my co-host, Sean Wilentz of Princeton, please subscribe to Legal AF. And this session of the Court of History is adjourned.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.